Yeah, actually, I think there are a lot of things people are not talking about about a device, not about what kind of device, but literally about the type of device. One thing I realized is all devices are relative, meaning it largely depends on the stage you are in, the time horizon you are thinking about, and literally everything about that one person who's taking the device. And so, in some way, there will be nobody giving you better advice than or judging which advice is better than yourself. Just because I'm the only person who know everything about myself, and so I think it's really important to reflect on that. One other thing I noticed is a lot of devices are quite the opposite of each other. Like it's literally a skill, and they are on the two opposite end, and they all have really right justification. So in that case, it really matters on what kind of purpose that you ask this advice for, or why do you want to do this, and you are getting advice for in the first place. I actually think it's both short term and long term positive, but there are some short term. It's long term, short term net positive, but there are some short term problems with. I see some fellow educators pointing out that there are certain scholarship going away for underprivileged kids. There are certain financial aid going away from for certain research and for certain things that actually matter for kids who wouldn't afford it in the first place. However, in the going away from department education will allow a range of different things, including making the education market more free, including making the education more like a free market, and including getting rid of the monopoly that traditional K-12 education have. And that was actually being pointed out by Steve Jobs decades ago, by 1990 something. He pointed out, so meaning the schools, the education care less about having the kids succeeding, but instead they start caring more about all the other things that they can leverage based on the monopoly, like the press, like the states, like the government, like the Department of Education. And going away from Department of Education will be one of the factors that really pushing this education reform along with other factors.
Yeah, it is like a lot of these educators, especially the bureaucratics the admin people. A lot of times, it's like they're more concerned with protecting their six-figure salary versus actually educating the kids.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of people they're talking about if the education department goes away, how do you protect kids with disabilities learning things?
Well, about I think another thing that's worth to point out is there's a rise of school choice, and it's actually not here in Washington, but there are various states which basically saying the money, because public school are free, right, and that's from the funding, but instead of having the funding go directly to public schools, to allow the students to be to enroll for free, they put the funding under like a parent's account, which they can spend it on anything of their school choice, on their education. This means public school, private school, homeschooling, micro schools, and that will be a game changer for a lot of families.
So let me ask you this: like I use South Dallas and South Carroll example again.
Hmm.
So do you think how to put this? Like suppose like students you can't do this because it's like an hour drive, right? That's too much.